So officially welcome to this signature masterclass, Sensitivity is Your Superpower. I am so glad that you are all here. These are the topics that we're going to be discussing today in this masterclass so that you have a little bird's eye view of everything we'll be going through. There will be a short break at one point. There will be a short break. So that will be sort of like 2 minutes to go and take care of your needs, whatever you need to do, and then we're going to come back. So let's dive in. So a little bit for those of you who are new to the community, welcome. And I want to share a bit about who I am. So I am Stacy Friedman, and I empower highly sensitive people and empaths to shift from survival mode to thriving. That is really the best way to sum up the work that I do. I'm a business owner, I'm an author and a speaker. I have a beautiful business that was born out of nowhere, something I had never intended to do, but I became a health coach back in 2018 and started a small business to support the health and wellness of others. I'm a highly sensitive person slash empath, because I'm both. So I am a coach of those two things, and I educate people about what those things are and how to navigate life as a highly sensitive person, because it can be pretty tricky. I also facilitate workshops and host group containers. So, you know, this community really is everything to me. And I'm, again, just so grateful that you're here to learn and to get to understand yourself a little better if you're an HSP, or the people in your life who are. So a little bit about my background. You know, once I started this journey of healing and knowledge, I grew really hungry to know more, to want more, to learn more. And everything that you see up in this slide is basically a reflection of my own path of healing. So when I was studying at IIN, I was working on changing my diet and lifestyle to support myself. When I was studying what it means to be an emotional eater, I was working on healing that coping behavior of my own. When I was in my somatic embodiment and regulation strategy certification class, I was actively reshaping my nervous system. So everything up on the slide is something that I've actually done for myself, for my own personal healing and growth, but also so that I can share my knowledge, my wisdom, and my tools with the people that I work with. So I'm the kind of person who, when I work with you, I would never ask you to do something that I haven't done before. And that really is true. Everything you see here is things that I have been through myself. And this was really my path to healing from a lot of the messages that I learned about who I was in the world as an HSP, healing a lot of the shame and trauma that I carried in my body as an empath that wasn't mine. And really, this is a beautiful testament to those of you who are on the healing journey. Like, keep going and keep getting support and keep learning, because I'm telling you, it's so worth it, even though it's hard work. So here I am then and now, just a quick glimpse at how have I changed over time. What did I used to do that I don't do now, that I'm really supporting my sensitivity and working with it rather than shoving it down and hiding it from the world. Through education, through healing, I'm in the now column. So back then, that was probably 10 years ago for me. That was then. I was an over-functioning, overthinking, overeater slash people pleaser who was really hard on myself, perfectionistic, felt a sense of shame for no particular reason, really scared to talk about my beliefs and what I thought was true. I felt a bit disconnected from my body, didn't really understand the language of intuition or what to do with it when I did feel it. Felt a massive desire to try and rescue and help every person that came my way. I wanted self-care, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to say yes to it, or I felt guilty if I did. I was pretty much a slave to my emotions, and my emotions ran the show most days. I didn't have any understanding of what the nervous system is or how it functions or how mine works. And my voice was very restricted back then. I didn't talk the way I talk now. I feel when I speak these days, I have a confident voice. I don't need to yell to be heard. And I am very comfortable speaking my truth. So these are some of the now qualities over on the right side. And I'm using the new term, the highly sensitive goddess. I've been teaching about the highly sensitive person for several years, and it is time now for us, I believe, to start calling it what it is. We are, in my opinion, highly sensitive goddesses and gods. If you're uncomfortable with that word, totally get it. And you can replace it with the word person. That's absolutely fine. But to me, a goddess is someone who is in her power and who has a mastery of her light, her inner light, and she shares it with the world. So I'll let you take a little browse at the column on the right. These are the changes that I've, experienced in my life through the journey that I've been on. So we're going to now talk about what it is to be a highly sensitive person. So make no mistake, this is not just someone who's sensitive. We're talking about people who actually identify as highly sensitive people. So this term was coined by Dr. Elaine Aron, who was a clinical psychologist and an author. And basically her research years ago set out to prove that HSPs are indeed different. We are different, not necessarily in a bad way or a good way, although I think it's really good, but we are different. So our nervous systems are wired differently. And the reason is both biological and biographical. So we're going to talk about that. HSPs as a group have a very low threshold for stimulation. We need lots of alone time, and we have lots of sensitivities to our environment. So we are sensitive to smell and sound and light and the moon cycle and where the planets are in the sky, woo-woo as that may sound. All these types of environmental influences really affect us. We feel them more deeply and are affected more deeply than other people are by changes in volume or changes in temperature, changes in weather. We feel these things more deeply and more intensely than other people. Many of us are averse to large groups or afraid in large groups. It can feel very overwhelming to be around so much energy because we feel it very intensely. We need lots of decompression time. Our transitioning from high to low stimulation, it takes us a while to come down from something that was exciting. We're famous for overthinking, and I can definitely say that was me at some point, like overthought everything. And now that's a lot more of, I say I'm an overthinker in recovery now, something that I've gotten a lot more balance and been able to manage. And it's kind of that tendency to overthink has gotten less prominent as I've created a sense of safety more and more inside of myself. Many HSPs love animals and nature. They're very connected to the natural world. And one of their greatest gifts is taking a bird's eye view of a situation. We're really, really good at zooming out and seeing something from up above. And just so you know, highly sensitive people are about, we'll say 20 to 30% of the population in the entire world. It used to be 20%, and now the number is showing, research is showing it's more close to 30%. So 1 in 3 people that you know are HSPs, whether they know it or don't. And men and women, it's equal for men and women. There is no bias there. So how do you know if you're an HSP? Dr. Elaine Aron came up with this acronym, DOES, and you can take a peek and see if DOES describes you. And one of the things that I want to point out to you is that it's a continuum, right? It's kind of like, it's not that either you are an HSP, well, it is that you're an HSP or you're not, but there's different degrees. There's different, think of it as a continuum. So for some of us, we're really high on the side of like very highly sensitive person, where some of us may connect with some of these traits, but maybe not all of them. you're still an HSP, but you're just not as high on that continuum than maybe other people may be. So these are some of the indicators that you might be a highly sensitive person. And if you're curious and you would like to take a quiz, if you go to Dr. Elaine Aron's website, you can look her up or look up the highly sensitive person online. There are quizzes that you can take that are free. And I think like there's maybe 27 questions, and you answer those questions, and based on how many yeses you have, that shows you how much of a highly sensitive person you might be. So environmental sensitivity is something that we also feel. And sensitivity is defined as the ability to perceive, process, and respond deeply to one's environment. So we perceive so much information from all of our senses beyond the 5 senses that we all talk about having. We have more senses than 5, and we're always perceiving information, taking it in, and we're thinking about that information as well. So HSPs do a lot of this, which is why we become traumatized more easily and we get exhausted more easily, because we are so responsive to all stimuli. So a day in the life of an HSP, yeah, it's not easy every day. You have to have a lot of strategies and tools in place and have an amazing self-care practice to be able to handle all of the sensitivities and thrive. So we're going to talk more about that too, like how do we get to that place? Good jobs for sensitive people. So I led a book club not too long ago. We read a book called Sensitive, The Hidden Power of the Highly Sensitive Person in a Loud, Fast, Too Much World. And when we got to the chapter on the best jobs for sensitive people, I was expecting it to say, oh, like a nurse or a teacher or a healer. And in fact, what I loved that this book taught us was that the best job for a sensitive person is really anything that your heart desires. Anything that your heart desires, because your sensitivity is a strength and it can be leveraged and used in so many different ways. So things to consider about the best job for you. Maybe you're in a job now and you feel stifled, or you feel like this job is not really satisfying to your soul. Maybe it feels like a job where you're not using your gifts. I can understand that frustration for sure. But things to consider, like maybe you are drawn to jobs that require empathy and creativity, or like really close attention to detail, because we don't miss a little beat, we don't miss a detail. We're really great at those detail-oriented types of jobs. It's important in our workspace to build in mental space to process information, because we need a little more time for that. And it's important for us to slow our productivity. For people like us, doing fewer things really well is better than doing a lot of things, which can just lead to overwhelm and then shut down, basically. It's important, if you're a highly sensitive person and you're in a job, maybe you work in corporate, really important for you to advocate for yourself and to ask for what you need. If your environment is not working for you, such as you're in a freezing cold room every day, or there's too much noise around you, it's really important, and it's hard. So we need a lot of courage to ask for what we need of our boss, of our colleagues, so that our sensitivity can thrive. We can feel nourished and not like we need to shut it down. The bonus to being an HSP in the workplace is that we are really wonderful super growers. We're made for super growth. And one of our gifts is we can reframe like small ho-hum tasks and see the higher purpose behind them to create meaning, because we like meaning. We're very attracted to meaning in the world. We don't like to have jobs that feel menial and not important. We don't like to have conversations that don't feel deep and connected. We really shut down with those types of things. We're meant for things that have big meaning. So we can take a job that we're doing and think about the higher purpose behind it and kind of recraft it or re-see the job that way. So if that's you, take that tip. We also are really fantastic leaders. We're wonderful leaders when given the chance. And we encourage higher levels of innovation, engagement, and cooperation. at the workplace. So if you're a highly sensitive person, please don't shy away from leadership opportunities at your work. You are meant to be a leader, or as I like to say, a royal advisor. Okay, so let's move along. I want to talk about the sensitive boost effect. So this is something that the book that I mentioned, which is a really wonderful book if you're looking to get more understanding of your highly sensitive nature. Here's a quick little picture of it. If you can see my tile, it's called Sensitive. And it's by Jen Graneman and Andre Solo. And I can send another picture of this later, but in this book, they talk about how, and this is like the best thing ever. I love this book for this reason. They talk about something called the sensitive boost effect. And basically what this means is that highly sensitive people compared to non-highly sensitive people, when given the right support and encouragement, it's a massive advantage for highly sensitives. When they're given the right support, they grow and grow and grow. They're meant for super growth. I like to say we are destined for super growth. So we springboard far beyond other people when we're given the right support. The other side to that is that if we're not around the right supportive people, if we don't have the right resources in our lives, we lose that opportunity to grow. So the more sensitive we are, the more we get out of the experience, which is why it's so important that there's community now and that this is being talked about more. So there is more support for us out there, because when we're nourished in the ways that we need, there is really no limit to what we can do. There's no limit to what we can do. So one of the things that can be very difficult in the world as we know it today, and I know we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go, is what they refer to in this book as the toughness myth and then the sensitive way. So the toughness myth, which I'm sure so many of you are sadly very familiar with, it is that we are required to hide our sensitivity. We're asked to hide it. We are taught and told through so many outer influences that being sensitive is a flaw, that there's something wrong with us for being so sensitive. It's viewed upon as something to fix. We have this sort of attitude as like only the strong will survive, and that being emotional is a sign of weakness. And I want to speak specifically to the males that are here and that are watching this. It's harder for you even more than for the women in the room. The more you can endure, the better off you are. And it's shameful to ask for help. These are some of the messages, right, that we are taught. And it has taken me many, many years to unravel these ways of thinking about my sensitivity so that I can show up every day the sensitive way and feel proud and good in myself for being this way. So the sensitive way is the belief that life is meaningful when you lead from your heart. So it's this radical rejection of what society teaches us in terms of why it's better to be tough. We have a lot of work to do when it comes to radical rejection of the ideas out there. And we hear these messages all the time. We hear them from pop culture. We hear them in the media. We hear them from our leaders, from our family members, from our friends, from our partners. So it's really easy to feel like we do need to hide that sensitivity, and we need to disconnect from it, and we need to pretend it's not there, because there is a lot of fear of rejection and fear of not fitting in and not belonging. So more and more, what we get to do is adopt the sensitive way and really understand more and more that this is truly a gift that we have. We have a different way of doing things, and there are so many benefits to the sensitive way. So I want to talk a little bit about what an empath is. So we have the highly sensitive person, and then we have the empath, right? So the empath is already a highly sensitive person. So empaths share all the traits that HSPs have. And again, this is a continuum, so maybe not every single thing on that list. But empaths also have some really unique traits. They are super responders with extremely reactive neurological systems. Empaths lack the natural filters that others have that block out stimulation. Empaths' threshold for sensory overload is really, really low. Empaths are commonly shamed and labeled as too sensitive or too emotional. And they can feel really anxious amongst other people, or especially in crowds, like Jesse's Walmart comment, because our subtle energy field. So this is our aura. It's the literal energy field that is about 3 to 4 feet out from our physical bodies in every direction. We overlap with other people's energy fields when we're moving through the world and picking up energy from other people without really being able to see it. It's kind of this invisible thing that's happening. But it's one of the reasons why, for me, after too long in the grocery store, I have to beeline as fast as I can for the exit. I need to get out of there because I've picked up too much energy and information from other people. We have trouble discerning our energy from other people's. So we might be sitting at our desk and perhaps our child walks in the room in a very anxious place. And all of a sudden we're feeling anxious too. And our bodies have gone from 0 to 100. And we have activated ourselves into sympathetic fight or flight activation. And we're feeling the same anxiety of our child. When just 2 minutes ago, we were grounded, we were calm. And now all of a sudden we are like a mirror, mirroring back to that person what they're feeling. And this is really something that's taken a long time to manage and to, I want to say, overcome, is how to have protective boundaries around myself, but also to be so grounded in my own energy, to know my own energy so well that I can walk out into a place with other people and it doesn't bother me. I don't get swayed. I don't have to beeline out of the supermarket as quickly these days. So that can be really tough for us because sometimes we're taking on things that aren't ours, our energy, other energies and emotions, and it's confusing. It can be very confusing and very overwhelming for us. And the last really big difference that to me is the indicator that you're an empath versus just an HSP, no right, no wrong, no good, no bad, is that empaths have really profound spiritual and intuitive experiences. And this is not typical for HSPs. It's more a trait of the empath. And you know what that means if that's you, what a profound spiritual or intuitive experience is. You know what that means. So that's a little bit of the differentiation between an HSP and an empath. So I want to share now this beautiful slide of the empath's superpowers. So I do mean it when I say that sensitivity is your superpower. Take a look at these different beautiful qualities and traits that are available to you. And hopefully you're saying yes to some of these, or I want more of that. I know that's inside of me, but I've shut it down or I've dimmed it. And I have to say too, that I didn't realize that not everyone feels these ways. I never knew that not all people love water and animals the way that I do. I didn't realize that not everyone else can experience that kind of joy for another person. I just figured everyone else was like me until I realized, oh wait, this is not everyone out there, which can be really confusing because when we feel things so deeply, we expect other people to as well. And oftentimes they don't. And we're left to go, how are you not feeling that? How do you not get that? Well, because they're not as sensitive as we are. They may not be empaths. So it's an interesting thing to navigate when you start to understand more and more how you're different from other people. So this is, again, my favorite slide in this whole deck. because it shows what's available to you with the right support. You have access to all of this, and not everybody does. Not everybody does. And this is the gift. This is the gift that you came here with. And I just think it's so magical and so beautiful to see it this way, because many empaths that come to me for support are overwhelmed by their gifts. They're not empowered. They feel like walking out into the world, it's like a war zone for them. It doesn't feel like a gift. It feels overwhelming. It feels really hard. It feels like this sucks. Like, why are you saying this is a superpower? This is really hard to navigate. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how do we get to these gifts? How do we get to really get to a place on our journey of growth where this is the reality? Everything on this slide is the reality. And being overwhelmed and being a puddle on the floor every other night and crying and not even knowing why we're crying and taking on everyone else's emotions and feeling the weight of the world on our shoulders, that can become the old version of who you were. So we're going to go into a little more of the heavy now. So I wanted to play that song to tap into the places where you maybe as an empath are feeling that heaviness. Many of the empaths that I work with, when they first come to me, a lot of this is the case. So, and there's no judgment or shame around any of this, because everything that you're going to see on these next two slides, this is how you learned to cope. These are beautiful coping strategies that you have needed in order to feel safe. So just keep that in mind. So unempowered empaths easily suffer that compassion fatigue. Right? They feel really tired from doing so much for everyone else. They often use alcohol, food, or other coping behaviors to block out or numb their sensitivities or emotions, not because there's anything bad or wrong about them, but because they're looking for a way to not feel all that they feel. And those are the things that are available. A lot of empaths have learned how to shrink, how to make themselves smaller, and how to contort themselves to fit in. Many empaths have learned to deny, literally deny, convince themselves these gifts don't exist, or to minimize them, to avoid judgment and fear of rejection, which makes so much sense. Lots of unempowered empaths have that martyr complex. I had that for a long, long time. This feeling like they had to rescue everyone. And the reason why is because they could see so much and they have so much compassion. So they can look at a person who's suffering and say, I know what could help you. I know what you need. I know what an answer could be for you. And so let me give it to you. Let me share with you. Let me help you. And that's a gift, but it can also become imbalanced, and it can become the shadow side of being an empath. Because when we start to give away too much of our own energy and our power, then it's not such a great thing. Here's another list of things that can happen if you're an unempowered empath. You might feel guilty or really uncomfortable focusing on your needs or self-care. That might feel really uncomfortable for you. Taking time for yourself, telling your kids or telling your partner or your parents, hey, I can't come this day, or I can't come to the game, or I can't do this thing because you need to take care of yourself. It can feel very uncomfortable at times. One of the things that I used to do a lot, and I didn't realize I was doing it, I didn't know until I knew, I would inadvertently silence my family's big feelings because of my low threshold for witnessing their distress. So like if my kids would come to me all up in a tizzy and angry or upset with their big feelings, the before Stacy, life before healing, would have like shut it down, tried to shut that down, because seeing my children suffering would, as the mirror empath that I am, cause me to feel suffering. So if I could shut it down over there, then I don't have to deal with it over here, because it's just so much to feel. Many unempowered empaths are over functioning. They're living their life always ahead of the game, ahead, a day ahead, a week ahead. How can I preemptively figure out how to make everyone happy down the line so I don't have to be around other people's uncomfortable emotions and feel them myself? So that over functioning that we sometimes do, trying to get ahead of things, it's like we're living in the future when we should be living in the present. But again, everything that you see on this list is all in the name of safety, perceived safety or real safety. And the last bullet is one of the most painful and something that's a very common experience for many of the people that I work with, that we have experienced way too often relationships with narcissists who prey upon our heart energy and our light. And it's really easy for us to get sucked into toxic relationships and not really understand. So if we don't know what narcissistic personality disorder or narcissists are, that's something for all of us to do some research about. It's really important for us to know what that is, because we can often feel like it was our fault when we've been in a relationship with a narcissist and things have been really difficult, when in fact it's not been our fault, that narcissists are manipulative and prey upon the light that you have. They feed off of it because they don't have a light of their own. So they feed off of yours. And I work with many people who are still healing from the abuse of gaslighting and manipulation. So you're not alone if that is you. Yeah, stuff's heavy. There's a lot that we navigate as empaths. There's a lot we have to navigate. But the good news is that when we empower ourselves and we learn more about these behaviors, the people pleasing, the perfectionism, the over functioning, when we start to really understand the roots of those behaviors and we let go of the shame around them, that's when we can start to repattern ourselves with compassion. So there's hope, there's hope, there's hope. And this is a very recent picture of me, and I feel like I'm bearing my soul in this picture. This is a picture of a woman, as I look at her, sometimes I can't even believe this is me now compared to who I used to be. But I hope you feel the strength in her in this picture. I hope you feel the power in this woman, because she wasn't always this way. And now that I am this empowered version of an empath, a highly sensitive goddess, so much is possible in my life that didn't used to be. So I pose that question to you and ask you, what would be possible for you if you learn how to heal the roots of the behaviors you find yourself in, the hiding that you find yourself in? If you could really thrive and be who you know you came here to be, what would be possible for you? Just taking in that question and thinking about the possibility for you. I want to bend your ear now about a new program that I am starting. For those of you who know my work, the beautiful program for self that I've been running for a couple of years has undergone a bit of a metamorphosis and now is becoming the highly sensitive goddess journey. And there are 3 phases to this program. And phase 1, and it's all about energy protection and emotional literacy. It includes boundary setting. So one of the most beautiful downloads that has come to me is that I want to tie this work to the goddess that I now feel I have kind of rebirthed myself as. And I have a really special oracle deck that I use, that I pull from, where I get guidance and higher wisdom. And I used this deck as inspiration to help frame these new programs that are coming out. And the very first program, this phase 1, the goddess that came up was Queen Esther, which was a big surprise to me because I just never thought of her as a goddess before. And her story is amazing. She was all about protecting what she loved. And the work I do in the world is about helping empaths and HSPs love themselves so deeply that they get to the place where they're willing to say no to someone else. They're willing to risk hurting someone else's feelings because they love themselves so deeply that they know where their boundary is, and they have to take courageous action to protect their energy and to protect their light. So there's is a 3-month container, and these are some of the topics that we're going to be diving into. The stone, the crystal, because I'm a crystal freak. I love my crystals. I love crystals so very much, and gemstones. So the crystal we're going to be working with and calling the energy of is the labradorite crystal. And you see it up on the screen. It's an incredible crystal. So Queen Esther's spirit and the labradorite crystal are sort of the driving force and the inspiration we'll be channeling throughout these 3 months as we learn more and more about how to manage all the emotions that we feel on the daily in our daily lives, what to do with them, how not to attach to them so much, how to just let them move through us without the story around it. And we're going to talk about healthy boundary setting. And one of the fun things we're going to do in class 2 on boundary setting, we're going to do some role plays. We're going to play out different scenarios, and we're going to play in real time and practice different ways of setting boundaries that we find ourselves feeling called to do in certain situations, but we're afraid to say them, or we fumble with the words, or we just don't feel the courage to say what we need to. And the third part of this program is all about energetic hygiene, right? You have an energy body that you can't see, but which very much walks around with you every single day and is a part of you and how you feel every day. And when you're not aware of your energy body, or you don't know how to take care of it, lots of things can seep into it. So I want to teach you practices and tools and rituals for how to ground, protect, and clear your energy body. So if you don't know any of these things yet, this would be a really awesome opportunity for you to learn these things. And I wanted to just share a little bit of feedback from some of my beautiful clients who I've worked with in this capacity, just some of the things that they've said. This is life-changing work. When you make that discovery that you're a highly sensitive person, it can really change everything for you. When you learn to embrace it and to own it and to claim it and to understand it and to work with it, it's been the biggest catalyst of my self-growth on my path to healing. It's been the number one thing for me. And there have been many things that I've done to live a life where I have everything I want and I can function every day in a mode of thrive. And I do a lot. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I have a home, I have a dog who's crazy and I gotta clean up our poop every day. And I have an incredible thriving business, and I'm serving and I'm sharing my gifts. I'm doing all these things that I never thought could be possible. And that's what I want for all of you who are stuck in some area of your life, stuck in a relationship, stuck in work, stuck in what's my purpose. You have such great purpose here. You came here for a reason at this time. And it's really my deepest yearning to help you heal the places and the parts of yourself that are holding you back from sharing your gifts freely. Being an HSP is both nature and nurture. The biology behind empathy. So it's 40%, like if we had to put a number on it, research shows it's 47% biological and 53% like biographical or environmental influence. So these are some of the scientific, if you will, more research-based reasons for why we have such sensitive systems. So the mirror neuron system, our connection to electromagnetic fields, the phenomenon of emotional contagion, the fact that we have increased dopamine sensitivity, mirror touch synesthesia, and this SERT gene, which is a new thing that's been researched, which they're calling now the social sensitivity gene. So when we think about the genetics of high sensory processing sensitivity, there's not just one gene, because it's a whole, slew of genes that we haven't discovered yet. But this short cert gene is one of the things that you could look up, or you could talk about with other people who are like, it's not genetic, or they're trying to tell you that, you're just a sensitive person. You can say, no, I'm not. I have genes that make me more sensitive, that light up certain parts of my brain more than your brain gets lit up. So I love the biology, and you can take a snap of this screen if you'd like, so that you can look at this again later. I'm not going to read every little detail to you, but there is science behind sensory processing sensitivity. And the two books that this information comes from, should you be interested, are the Empath Survival Guide, as well as the other book, Sensitive, that I mentioned to you. So it is biologic, but it's also biographical. And this is the place where I tend to work with people, in the biographical stuff. We can't change the biology. We can work on, epigenetics, not expressing certain genes, but I can't change the genes that you have. What I can help you with is the healing of the nervous system you have, the reshaping of the nervous system that you have as a result of trying to feel safe in your experiences and in your body and in the world. I can help you with healing the shame messages that you've taken on, and the ways that you have experienced people, yourself, and the world. So this is John Bowlby's work, if you're interested in attachment theory. So John Bowlby's work is all about the attachment style that we had as infants with our original caregivers. And the attachment style that we had then informs what is now carried into our adult life. So many highly sensitive people, and there are three different attachment styles. There's secure attached, with which 50% of people get to experience, 50% of people in the world. And then there's the anxious preoccupied style, which most HSPs resonate with. The other one is avoidant. That's another attachment style that maybe some of you have experienced as well. And it might be that you have a combination of two that maybe you grew up with. But for those of us who didn't have that secure attachment to our caregivers as infants, this is what we are learning now, how to reshape, how to understand, so that we are not constantly in fight or flight or in shutdown. So HSPs, many of them require that ongoing external reassurance. We can ruminate or obsess about the past. We subconsciously tend to recreate experiences of fear, hurt, anger, rejection, because we're playing out old patterns that we're not even consciously aware that we're doing. We have really high sensitivity to rejection and other people's moods and actions. We're highly emotional, right? And a lot of us don't always have the best personal boundaries, especially in high stress moments. And that's okay, because we didn't get the opportunity, like other people who had the secure attached style of caregiving. We didn't have the opportunity to develop those things. So a lot of us had that missed opportunity, and now we get to teach it to ourselves at this stage in our lives. But it's a big part of why we can feel so flooded by our sensitivity and so stuck. So the good news is we get to unlock this pattern. There are ways to unlock the pattern. And I've spent a lot of time learning and understanding the nervous system and polyvagal theory. And we talk a lot about this in my work. I talk a lot about this, and I help my clients a lot with their nervous systems in the work that I do. So basically, this is just one way to see the nervous system. I'm not going to get into all the details of our autonomic nervous system, but basically this green zone in the middle here of the dotted lines, this optimal energy zone, this is what we call the ventral vagal, so the ventral zone, ventral vagal. And in this green zone, it's where we feel safe, we can socialize and we can engage with others in a safe way. For many highly sensitive people, it's hard to be in that window, because that window for us is really narrow. It's really, really narrow. So it doesn't take much for us to go up into sympathetic activation or to shoot down into dorsal energy, shutdown energy. So after phase 1 of the highly sensitive goddess journey, I will be launching phase 2. And phase 2 is going to be all about this. It's going to be all about your nervous system, understanding your nervous system, connected to your attachment style with your original caregiver. And we're going to work in stage 2 of the program on reshaping, understanding how it works, and resourcing ourselves and reaching out for resources to help ourselves to reshape that nervous system. So without an understanding of your window of capacity, it's really hard to thrive as a highly sensitive person. So this is more of a tease of what's to come. And some of you are already very familiar with polyvagal theory, but if you're interested in learning more about this, I would look up Dan Siegel's work. And if you would like to book a call with me, which I'm going to talk about soon, we can talk about this. We can talk about your window of capacity on that call. So on your paper, on your note sheet, there's a place at the bottom. It's like understanding your nervous system's what are the key to being able to thrive. It's your triggers and your patterns. This is really everything for the highly sensitive person, is understanding how the nervous system works, their unique nervous system, knowing their triggers, and knowing the patterns of their system. And once we know the triggers and the patterns, we can reshape them. We can reshape them. And I've done it, and so many women I've worked with have done it as well. So it's not always the easiest thing, right? Because old habits die hard, but we can certainly do it. So I want to talk now, as we're coming to an end, about the 8 keys that I recommend for you to support the super growth that you're destined to achieve or experience. I even hate the word achieve, that you're destined to experience in this lifetime. Number 1 is finding your people, finding your tribe, finding your community. It's so important as a highly sensitive person who is a minority in the world to find other highly sensitive people and to be with them and to commune with them and to talk to them and to share with them and to be seen by them and to hear their stories and their experiences. So I encourage you to join some type of community for highly sensitive people. I have a community that I absolutely love, cherish, adore, of incredible women and men. But there are other communities out there. So find your people, right? You need to be around other HSPs who get it, who get you, who get your nervous system. The second key to super growth is this practice that I call radical rejection. And this is why community is so important, because we need other people on the same kind of healing path to remind us we're drinking the Kool-Aid again. Wait a minute. I forgot I need to radically reject that feeling my emotions is a weakness. So we get to a place where we have to start taking a really careful look at what we've learned, what we've taken on, what messages and stories we've integrated subconsciously over time about our sensitivity being something that needs to be fixed or hidden. One of the biggest things too for super growth is coming to understand what emotions even are, rather than being flooded by them all the time and being taken out by them and leaving that optimal window of capacity and being in your fight or flight mode or your shutdown mode. Because when you go to those places, your gifts are not accessible as much. So you really need to understand what emotions are, how they work, that they have a lifespan. How do we move them through our body? How do we not get attached to them? Right? This is really important. So emotional literacy is really important for you to thrive. And a really great book that's hard to read is called Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown. If you want to start somewhere, that would be a book that I would recommend to you. It's sort of like an encyclopedia of emotions. And then I highly recommend you find a helper healer who understands how to work with people and help them release emotions, to teach you ways to do that. And this is what's going to be part of the Highly Sensitive Goddess Journey, this phase 1 program. We will be doing this in the program. The next thing is learning how to say no, right? How to get over that people pleaser inside of you that's like, doesn't want to upset that person or hear someone or feel someone's disappointment in you. We have to learn how to say no and to set boundaries and hold boundaries, not just set them, but hold them so that we can avoid energy leakages and the vampires out there that leech off of our bright light and our energy. So we're going to do this in phase 1 of the program. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be practicing this in real time with each other and then on our own. We talked about energetic hygiene, right? We need to have a practice where just the way you brush your teeth every day, hopefully on most days you're able to do that and take a shower and do the things you need to do for hygiene. We often forget energetic hygiene. We forget to take care of our energy body. And it's very much a big, crucial part of your well-being and how you feel every day. We can't see it, so it's easy to forget that it's there. But when we keep it cleared and we only allow in what we choose, our intuition expands, magnifies, blows up, and we start to feel and understand when our intuition is speaking to us more than ever before. So if you're someone who's like, I kind of think I know what my intuition feels like, I kind of get what it is, but I'm not exactly sure, you probably have a lot of junk mucking up your energetic field that needs to be cleared away so that you have a clearer sense of your body and your higher wisdom and how it communicates with you. When you're loaded up with everyone else's energy and emotions, you can't feel that or sense it. You're disconnected from it, and it's not your fault. You just have layers and layers and layers of heaviness and density, energetic density, clogging that channel for you. And we're going to practice this in phase 1 of the program. Then I highly encourage you to seek opportunities for nervous system co-regulation and reciprocity. Your nervous system needs, it's like a biological imperative. Your nervous system needs to be around other nervous systems that are a match for you. Many of us are in relationships with people who are a mismatch, whose nervous systems are wired very differently from ours, who may be living up in sympathetic all day long, all the time, or who may be down in really dorsal, drained energy all the time. And it affects our nervous system. It affects us. So we need to create time and space to be with other sensitives who are like us, who are on this path of healing, because we can co-regulate and enjoy the gifts of reciprocity that we never got in our past. And this is really important for us to feel nourished and seen. I can't stress this one enough, is finding the people that are your nervous system match. That could be a partner, it could be a friend, it could be a teacher or a coach, it could be a colleague, but create more time with that person so you can co-regulate with them. It's about creating more flexibility in our nervous system, right? These nervous system windows of optimal energy that we have, they're so small. So what we have to learn over time is how to flex them and create more robustness in the nervous system capacity. So we don't have to hide out in our homes every day. We need to live in the world. We have to get out there and share our gifts and shine our light. So how do we do that when our window of capacity is so small? We learn to flex it. And this is a lot of what's going to be in phase 2 of the program. And then phase 3 is going to be about going really deep into the healing work, the really deep healing your shame, healing all the trauma of your past. And I just want to name this because I was working with a client today and I needed to remind her, trauma is not just what has happened to you. Trauma is also the things that didn't happen that should have happened. It's those missed opportunities that you didn't get to have. That is also trauma. Trauma can be capital T, but it can also be lowercase t. And many of the women I work with and the men that I work with are part of that. Yeah, we've had a lot of the capital T traumas, but most of it's the lowercase t. It's developmental. It was all the times we didn't get support. It was all the times our parents didn't see us for who we really were. It's all the times our teachers shut us down or told us to, turn down our emotions or our sensitivity, or our friends did. So there's a whole layer of healing that once we start to access that, man, does being a highly sensitive person in the relationship to that change in the best of ways. So again, everything on the slides is kind of a reflection of my life, my healing journey. I've been through all these things, and now I share this with my community. I want to share this resource with you. So this is in the PDF that I sent. I find seeing my life on a screen really overwhelming and also really validating. So I created this sort of map of what the journey can look like when you're in survival mode, and then you realize that you're this HSP, this thing that exists. Oh my God, there comes the research mode, or the me search mode, where you start to realize, oh my God, this makes so much sense. Oh my goddess, that makes so much sense now. And all the light bulbs start to go on, and you start to go, wow, this was the missing piece for me. We then move into awakening to our higher purpose, awakening to who we really want to be in this world, knowing that, oh my gosh, it wasn't just me. It wasn't just me, that this was my sensitivity, and I didn't have a name for it or the tools for it. And then we start the real journey of healing and thriving and rising as the royal advisors that I say. We came here to be the healers, the lighthouses that we came here to be. So this is in your PDF if you want to look at it and spend some time with it. And what I want to offer you, just because I know this can be overwhelming and a lot of information to digest, especially if you're new to this, but I want to offer a 30-minute complimentary call where we can sit together and we can look at this map, this journey map, and you can assess where you are. And you might find yourself in different columns for different areas of your life, but we'll look together at where you're at. And what I'd love to offer you is no strings attached, just a free little mini plan to help you feel more empowered in your relationship, in your work, with your kids, wherever it is that you're feeling stifled, or you're feeling you're not living your biggest, you're not living your gifts, you're not shining, you're not using your voice. I'll share, a little mini plan for you, a few tools that you can use. So this term HSG, I'd like you to start calling yourself a highly sensitive goddess or God, or whatever term you like. But this is a highly sensitive woman or man who has chosen to follow their intuition and express their soul purpose. HSGs yearn to know, heal, and love all the parts of themselves, and they're devoted to creating a life that nurtures their sensitivity. And my mission that I share, that I know all of you also have inside of you, is to unite with your inner brilliance so that you can share it with the world, because that's why you came here, to use your gifts to help others without compromising your well-being.